Pop-ups, pop-ups, more pop-ups. In Zoom here, you've got them all the time, at least from this end. And I want to welcome you to New Earth Restoration online Shabbat service for secular November the 18th, 2023. And what do you know? Another year almost gone. Who would have thought that you would live this long? Who would have thought? Well, I want to start out today with a different kind of meditation, and that is I want to show you a video. You have heard that we have been supporting a little girl in nursing school, and that is George, I understand her name is. She's on with a video right now with Brother Finney, and it's just very short. I'd like you to take a look, then I'll give you some highlights from the Haiti Ministry Annual Report. Just hold with me now. I'm inept at this.
Shalom, mes frères et sœurs.
Okay, shalom to all of you sisters and brothers. As you know, Sister George can't really speak English. She used me like to translate for her.
Je tiens du plus profond de moi à remercier le Créateur de l'univers, Abba Yahweh.
She said she wants to thank, first of all, Abba Yahweh for His grace, His mercy about her.
Pour sa grâce et sa protection envers moi.
Because, as you know, in our country, situation is very dangerous. Abba Yahweh protect her. She wants to thankfully Abba Yahweh for His mercy, His grace toward her.
Je veux aussi remercier les frères et sœurs.
She wants also to thankfully all of your sisters and brothers for your support, for your help about her. Qui m'ont permis
de réaliser mon rêve.
Because without your support, your help, she can't realize her dreams, and she can't find the good words to express her happiness about this opportunity.
Merci pour vos conseils.
Thank you so much for your advisors.
Merci pour votre prière.
Thank you also for your prayers.
Et aussi merci pour votre support.
And also deeply thank you for your support.
Merci pour les matériels.
And the most important, as you know, learning can't be good without materials. She wants also to thankfully also for giving her opportunity to have materials to learning. Permettre de progresser. And with materials, she can progress. And as you know, she has the good result. And now she will do better because she has material to learning.
Que le Seigneur
puisse continuer.
Que le Seigneur puisse continuer à vous bénir.
May Abba Yahweh will always be with all of you. May Abba Yahweh always be with her to give her opportunity to continue to study and to realize her dreams, to be a good nurse. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that you saw or not. I think I got it going there at the end. But that's Sister George, just the tail end. Yeah, okay. You can get that up on our YouTube site, and that is at youtube1.org. youtube1.org. That and many, many, many other presentations are up there, including the services we're doing today. So she's a little shy girl, and you would never know that she is in the age where she could go to nursing school. But let me tell you, the only way you're going to change the continuous dominion of darkness over that country is to get believing children, especially here we have Hebrew roots children, learning about Yahweh, making something of themselves, and then moving up in hospitals, in governments, even in churches there, and changing it from the inside out. That's the only way it's going to work. We've seen it work in our parents' ministry just wonderfully and for many years, but now they're gone. and there's nothing much left. But what we're doing there is valuable, and it is, well, I'll say excellent. Let me see if I can find that report. Here it is. I'm just going to read a little of it. Jackson Snyder Mixed College, CMJS, I didn't give it that name, was founded in September 1997 by Maestro Sencia Saint Martin, who was at that time founding director and administrator, and Jean Finet Honoré and Brice Saint Martin, administrative director and director of academic and sports affairs. After Maestro, who you've all met, lost his sight, the staff chose me, Jean Finet Honoré, to be general director, and therefore ensured the proper functioning of the institution since September 1999 to the present day. Since 2021 on this date, the school has more than 350 students. 350 students. It's a school which mainly targets the most vulnerable children, orphan children, children on the streets. So these categories of children didn't have access to education and had absolutely no future. There are donors since the existence of the school who help us to have the capacity to be able to give to these miserable children abandoned by themselves a taste for educational and school life by giving them the possibility of having the bread of instruction. Then he goes on to tell us that there are 10 members here that are of the administrating staff. I don't think you would know the names of any of these, and we might have even difficulty trying to pronounce them. And as far as teachers go, 10 administrators, 35 teachers, 15 kindergarten teachers, 8 primary teachers, 12 secondary teachers. On the threshold of the year 2022, we've set up a vocational school where children finishing their secondary studies can learn a professional course, such as Office IT. They can master software like Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint. Hey, you can't do business these days without these skills because we're in the era of technology. And it's important to instill computer concepts. Coming from school funds, we have 2 little girls who were abandoned, who lost their parents after the funeral of their parents, for which Vero Essene Yahad had provided this ceremony. These 2 children are still in our care. We give them food and drink, giving them access to materials so they can continue their studies. I'm just going to go a little farther because, of course, I'm going to make a pitch here. Take into account the funds we receive from Yahad, which are quickly dwindling. Receive a fund of $900 US, sometimes $1,200. Here's a distribution as well as the details of the use of these funds. Of course, you've got to pay your staff. Altogether, there are 45 people on the staff. I think I added 10 to that earlier on. We need 42,000. That might not be right. For monthly pay, I think it's $1,300. Sometimes the funds we receive are not enough. But fortunately, Abba Yah has provided other funds for us. For example, their Moringa project, which he says he'll talk about later. Monthly, the food fund for the 2 little girls who are their responsibility, their food, their clothing, their health care, and other accessories costs $170 US per month. Coming from the funds of the school and the Moringa Project, we have a young lady who responds to the name of Sister George, who we just heard. The Moringa Project there, you've heard about that. I believe that's been stopped by the gangs of thugs there. It's just been stopped. It's up in the air right now. They, Fine and his father go to Miragone every weekend for service, to have a service. And they have to pay bandits on the road to give them access to pass through there. It's probably only an hour's trip if you're flying by the Crow, but for them, it's a 7-hour trip to get to their Yahad and then back. The cost of the trip for them is $130 every month. You don't buy gasoline by the gallon there, you buy it by the liter. So you're not getting as much. The school didn't have electricity. It was rather sad and serious situation. It doesn't even have a roof on it. Coming from the Yahad funds, I had sent photos to Brother Emerson, who bought 2 Type C solar panels, 6 Trojan brand batteries, 2 regulators, and other accessories to provide us with our own source of energy. All this cost us $750 US, coming from the funds of the Yahad and the Moringa Project. And I sent the images of everything this has to Brother Mo as proof and justification. And that's as far as I'm going to go on it. But as you can see right now, we are dependent on a few very generous Yahad members and some that aren't, that are paying these funds. But the Yahad anymore is getting to the point where we can't hold up our part of it. See how shaky I am talking about it? But we need funds. And I want you to understand that this is an enduring work, an important work. It's a work for the future as well as the present. If the school has been going like this from 97, that is 26 years now. Some of those children are long out of there and working in jobs with good finances, maybe. Still, there's so little jobs there at all. However, they have received the education they need to work and make a living. And oftentimes, those that get new jobs have a whole family to support. I'm not talking about husband, wife, and 2 kids. I'm talking about a husband and wife and 20 kids, lots of kids. I had a Presbyterian minister ask me one time, why don't you do something worthwhile there and teach them about birth control? And that's one question that comes up quite often. Let me say, the only future some of these peasants have are in their children. And maybe one of them out of their 15 children will get to Orlando and get in a Disney kitchen to work and get the lowest amount of pay you can give, minimum wage, and send that home to support a lot more people in their family there. Now, I personally seen this over and over, and it's not just once, but more than once. I have actually talked to some of these, well, they were children back years ago, but now they're in the United States and they are working and they are legal immigrants working on their citizenship. That is always so enlightening and endearing to me to hear that. In fact, there's one on Facebook. I've seen many on Facebook. One in particular, he was a pain in the rear end when we went down there to minister. But now he's a grown up and he's a singing evangelist, very successful in the United States. And where does his money go? Right back to his home to make a better future for them all. You know, they had a baby Doc there as their ruler for quite some time. Baby Doc and his wife stole all the money in the treasury and left. And it's been an utter chaos ever since then. So help us if you can. Send some money in here. Send the funds. Yes, I'm asking for money. I could say just pray, 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 like the preacher does every Sunday, but it's more than that. This is more important than that. We're not trying to build a building here in the United States and a nice church building or put a new steeple on the church, but rather what we need to do is keep these children in the palms of our hands until we can let loose of them on a world that is ready to receive them. Amen. Yes, thank you for putting that on there. You can also send checks to me personally here at the office, and perhaps Brother Smith can put that address on here too. You write it down, or you can go out to the donation page at veroyahad.org. No, that's not my mail. That's not my address. It hasn't been for years. Let me put it on here. As soon as I can find the chat there. All right, here it comes. It's 1555 14th Avenue, number 120. Vero Beach, Florida, 32960. If you send a check in, then it doesn't cost us anything. If it comes through PayPal or Cash App, there's a little bit of a charge there, and sometimes not too little. We prefer the check for that very reason. We're not taking away any of your donation. And I might also say one thing that's very important, and that is how much money goes out for administration? None. Why is that? Because all administration is paid through the members' dues. That's all taken care of. As long as we have members and don't have them quit on us like we do occasionally, then we have our administrative fees for here in the office and whatever else we need. Don't get that with the Red Cross. How much does the head of the Red Cross make? I think it was $1.2 million last time I heard, Elizabeth Dole. Okay, well, that is my word for today. I'm sorry if I was a little loud, but I get emotional on things like this. So first of all, while I calm down, let me lead you in prayer, and then we'll go on to the liturgy. Father Yahweh, we recall that hackneyed story from the scripture about having the children come unto your son, and now the children come unto us. We don't hinder them. They are here. You've sent them our way. We have no choice but to support them. And it might be that our inheritance in faith is not even in this country. Our inheritance in faith and our future in matters of faith could be somewhere else entirely. Give us a heart for giving. Give us a heart for these kids that have absolutely nothing, that in some months eat mud pies for their daily meal. I ask you to rend hearts here today and help us to make that monthly draw so we can continue this work. Not only that, but that we can expand it in all the different projects that we have a mind on. Help us to do them. Father, bless each one of these people here today who's heard this message. Give them a special gift this next week as they think about this. Let them know that they're a part and can be a greater part. We ask it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Okay, as we look at the world around us today, we see a society engulfed in chaos. It's a world filled with hate, animosity, distrust, anger, and division. A world that is dying and losing all connection with reality. If we look at the whole of society today, collectively, as one human body, it's obvious that it is sick and dying. And we need to ask ourselves, why? The answer to that, in its simplest form, because of human nature, and one of the downfalls of human nature is its focus on the self. Needless to say, this is not the society our Creator envisioned for mankind, as we read in the Genesis account. In Bereshit, Genesis 1:31, and Elohim saw everything that he had made, and see, it was very tov, or good. So he did not make it to be chaotic. He did not make it to be a pitfall of human nature, but he made it to be perfect. After 6 days of recreating the world, Yahweh looked at what he had created, and it was all in perfection. All was created in peace. So what happened? Well, our first mother, Havar, or Eve, as she is called, succumbed to human nature by listening to and believing a lie. We read about that in Bereshit, Genesis 3, 4, and 5. And the serpent said to the woman, "You shall not surely die, for Elohim does know that in the day that you eat of it, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing tov and evil." Do you see how Satan, in the form of the serpent, used the human lust for power to tempt Havar to become like Elohim? It is that lust for power to be able to control others that has led our society to the very throne of chaos. And we can look at these pictures here, and there are so many that could have been used, but we see chaos everywhere, violence, rioting, insurrections. And what's it leading to? It's leading to the wars that we see in the Ukraine, in the Middle East, and now it looks like the Pacific Theater. So is there a solution? Well, in Yeshayahu we read, "The way of shalom they know not, and there is no right ruling in their ways. They have made for themselves crooked paths. Whoever goes in them shall not know shalom." Mankind cannot find peace because they have rejected right ruling. But just what is right ruling? Well, in Shemuel, that, or in 2 Samuel 32, verse 3, it states, "He that rules over men must be just, ruling in the fear of Elohim." And in the Proverbs, 29, verse 2, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn." So it is just because of wicked rulers that we have so much discord, or is it just because of the wicked rulers that we have so much discord and evil in the world? Of course not. Because if it were only due to wicked rulers, all of the good people would rise up against that ruler and do away with such a person. No, my friends, it is because there is a germ of wickedness in all of us. That's not to say that all are wicked, but that the potential is there within. Let us look at the example of a young child. As a baby, they cry out for things they want, but as they get older, they learn to ask. Except in the case where that child was always given the things that they cried for. In that case, the child grew up learning if crying won't work, then taking comes into play. I'm sure you've noticed little ones grabbing toys away from another just because they want to play with it. And sometimes it is not for that reason, but just to see that the other child does not have it. So can you see how this leads to a selfish attitude in grown children and even adults? Notice the difference between the two boys on the left and the right. The boy on the left appears to be content with playing with the toys in his hand. But look at the one on the right. He's showing great interest in what the boy in the center has in his hands. If the boy on the right has been trained well, that look may only be curiosity. But if he has been coddled all his life and given anything he wants, this could lead him to take away from the boy in the center. So you see, we learn to control our human nature as children if we are blessed with good parents. Again, Michelle, Proverbs 22, verse 6, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Here's another indication that there's a problem in our society. When we see young people doing things that they know they should not be involved in. We see here these children are drinking. Apparently, it's obvious that they're not legal age. Children need to learn that this is one of the reasons that they press the envelope. Sometimes they will engage in activities they are curious about, which may be harmful to them. Sometimes they will actually rebel against set rules just to see if they can get away with it. The wise parent will understand this and caution them, perhaps showing them the consequences in later life. And there's plenty of examples in our society today that we can show our children the results of sinful and lustful living. The worst thing a parent can do in such a case is to lose control of their emotions. And that's not to say that a spanking is not to be used, but all must be administered in love, not anger. And from the website futurity.org, though it has been suggested that spikes in crime rates for teens and young adults in the United States are the result of teens being biologically disposed to risky law-breaking behavior, a new study indicates that culture may play a role in shaping the criminal behavior of teenagers. Do you understand that last sentence there? Culture may play the role in shaping that criminal behavior. We are part of that culture which molds and shapes a child's future. So how do we do that? By establishing rules. What does this have to do with peace? Well, so what is the key to peace? To understand the key, we need to take a look at Devarim, or Deuteronomy 28. And we'll go down through these verses. 15. And it shall be, if you do not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard and do all his commands and his laws, which I command you today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. Cursed are you in the city, and cursed are you in the field. 17, cursed are you. Cursed is your basket and your kneading bowl. 18, cursed is the fruit of your body and the fruit of your land, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flocks. 19, cursed are you when you come in, and cursed are you when you go out. 20, Yahweh sends on you the curse, the confusion, and the rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly because of the evil of your doing by which you have forsaken me. Verse 21, Yahweh makes the plague cling to you until he has consumed you from the land which you are going to possess. 22, Yahweh smites you with wasting disease and with inflammation and with burning and with extreme heat and with the sword and with blight and with mildew, and they shall pursue you until you perish. Verse 23, and your heavens which are above, or which are over your head, shall be bronze, and the earth which is under you iron. 24, Yahweh makes the rain of your land powder and dust. From the heavens it comes down on you until you are destroyed. 25, Yahweh causes you to be defeated before your enemies. You go out one way, you go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and you shall become a horror to all the reigns of the earth. 26, and your carcasses shall be for food for all the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the earth, with no one to frighten them away. Verse 27, Yahweh shall smite you with the boils of Mitzrayim, with tumors, and with scab, and with the itch, from which you are unable to be healed. 28, Yahweh shall smite you with madness and blindness and bewilderment of heart. 29, and you shall be groping at noon, as a blind man gropes in the darkness, and not prosper in your ways. And you should be only oppressed and plundered all the days, with no one to save you. Verse 30, you become engaged to a wife, but another man does lie with her. You build a house, but do not dwell in it. You plant a vineyard, but do not use its fruit. 31, your ox is slaughtered before your eyes, but you do not eat of it. Your donkey is violently taken away from you, and it is not given back to you. Your sheep are given to your enemies, with no one to save them. Verse 32, your sons and your daughters are given to another people, and your eyes look and fail for them all day long, and your hand is powerless. Verse 33, a people whom you have not known eat the fruit of your land and all your labors, and you shall be only oppressed and crushed all the days. And verse 34, and you shall be maddened because of the sight which your eyes see. And notice all of these things that I have in red. These are the things that we see in our society today. These are the things that are growing exponentially in our society. And why? Can you see how these things will have adverse effects on a person? So what do we need to understand? What we need to understand is that if we are willing to live in obedience to Yah, in accordance to verses 1 through 14, we will have those blessings which lead to peace and happiness, the true liberty of the law. And we can read about that in Yaakov, James 1:25. So now we're going to go to that law that brings the blessings. In Shemot, or Exodus 20, we're going to start with verse 2. Allah, the first commandment. I am Yahweh Yah Elohim, who has brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. Notice this first command, and some have asked, what is the command here? Well, for a starter, Yahweh states his set-apart name, the name he expects us to call upon. Shemot 30, Exodus 3:15. And Elohim said moreover to Moshe, this shall you say to the children of Israel, Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, the Elohim of Yaakov, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial to all generations. Yahweh does not want us to call him by any other name. And we read this in Yeshayahu, in Isaiah 52, verse 6, the first part. Therefore my people shall know my name. And moreover, he does not want to be called by the names of false gods. We see this in Hosea 2:17. For I will take away the names of Baalim, the lords, out of your mouth, and they no more to be remembered. So there are many other scriptures which discuss the importance of his name, and I encourage a study of such. We will also notice in the last part of that verse, he is reminding us what he did for our forefathers. And when I say that verse, I'm going back to the verse 2 itself, where he says he brought us out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. He's reminding us of what he did for our forefathers. We should always remember that account of the time in Egypt, and we should do this especially at Pesach. And as we're on this subject of the name, and going back to the verse here in Hosea, I have been using a teaching with people concerning the name. The teaching goes like this. If a woman has dated a man for years, and his name was George, but she finally figures out that George wasn't the right man for her, so she finds another man, and this man's name is Henry. But one night in intimacy, she calls out George. How do you think poor Henry felt? Could this not be the same as our Father in heaven when we use the names of Baalim? Shemot, Exodus 20, and verse 3, the second command, Bet. You shall have no other mighty ones against my face. Verse 4, you do not make for yourselves a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. Verse 5, you do not bow down to them nor serve them. For I, Yahweh Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. Verse 6, but showing kindness to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. While this command appears to need no explanation, it should be pointed out that in verse 5, not only do we see that we are not to bow down to them, but we are not to serve them. How do we serve idols? By placing them first in our lives. Does everything in your life revolve around your work, TV, sports, or etc.? Do you find yourself constantly worrying about finances? Perhaps it is a hobby which takes your mind away from spiritual concerns. Sadly, sometimes it's even our families which occupy too much of our time. And don't get me wrong, there is a time and a place for everything which edifies. And I need this instructions just as much as anyone, if not more. One last comment before we move on. If you ever walk into an Amish home, you may notice that they have no pictures nor icons in their homes. They fail to see the relevance of verse 5 to verse 4, where it says they do not bow down nor serve them. Even the temple and the tabernacle had carvings and pictures. Shemot, Exodus 20, the third command, Gimel. Verse 7, You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Now, I prefer the Restoration Scriptures True Name Edition version of this, which says, you shall not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to vain emptiness, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless that brings his name to vain emptiness. Do we even comprehend just how important that name is? This is one of the works which Yeshua did when he walked with men. In Yochanan, John 17, verse 6, we read, I have revealed your name to the men you have given me out of the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have guarded your word. Read that again very carefully. He has given the Father's name to those whom Abba Yah has chosen. Hallelujah. Have you been given that name? If so, we will be held accountable for how we use or misuse it. Shemot, Exodus 20, Dalat, or the fourth. In verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahweh, your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart. Most of us gathered here today are very familiar with the importance of the seventh-day Sabbath, but that is not so with the world around us. We know the peace and happiness of Shabbat. I am convinced that if everyone in the world would just keep Shabbat as a day of rest, much of the stress and anguish would be removed from the people's lives. Nonetheless, our merciful and loving Father, Yah, gave us 1 day in 7 to rest and draw near to him in prayer and worship. A day when we can rest from our daily toil and recuperate from our work. A day when we do no shopping, no activities which would cause others to work either. I would also add that this is a day when we should refrain from any activity which may make us unclean. Scripture shows us that the Mashiach Yahushua kept the Shabbat. So should we not also do as he did or does? These 4 commands show us very clearly how we are to express our love for Yahweh. Yet, how many people in the world today actually understand the blessings that are provided just by following those 4 commands? To be at peace with Elohim is to hold one of the keys to absolute peace, or shalom. But those 4 alone will not bring total peace upon the world. If we are to experience true, lasting peace, we must now put into practice the last 6 of the commands, for it is through them that we learn how to love our fellow man. And not just to love fellow man, but to also be in complete harmony with Elohim. Sadly, this cannot and will not happen until Master Yahushua returns and establishes his Father's kingdom here on the earth, the purpose of the 1,000-year reign. But as we see in Devarim, or Deuteronomy 28, 1-14, our obedience to and reverence for Yahweh's laws will bring us an inner peace that very few know. Shemot, Exodus 20 and verse 12, as we go into the laws which concern our relationship with others. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. We live in a society today where there is much pressure on youth to rebel, to disrespect their parents. And while this is true throughout the world now, it is not so prevalent in some of the Asian nations. Much of this can be blamed on our media, but the public education system, which is more of an indoctrination system, plays a major part in this as well. And it is one of the things we in the faith need to be working on in our own homes. I myself was guilty of dishonoring my parents as a youth. It was not until I had gone through the military that I realized what a blessing it was to live in a two-parent home. In verse 13, you do not murder. How basic a command, yet so misunderstood today. When I went into the military, I had the wrong interpretation of this command because the King James Version noted it as thou shalt not kill. I took that as meaning we could not take another's life, even in combat. Now today, we see innocent babies being killed or murdered just because they're an inconvenience. The Western nations have much blood on their hands, not only for what we've done to our own innocent ones, but for promoting and extending that service to other nations as well. Of course, anyone who has done much research into the abortion epidemic realize that it was pushed by Margaret Sanger as a means of controlling the birth of African babies, truly based in racism. So what is the key to peace? It is knowing and loving the commands of Yahweh has given us. Putting to practice these concepts of love will lead the world to true peace. As we study the Torah, we become more familiar with how to apply these principles. We gain a better understanding of how our Abba loves us and how he expects us to love one another. Back in the 60s, the Beatles had a song called Love, Love, Love. It is interesting that we are called to express three kinds of love as well. Love for Elohim, love for others, and love for ourselves. And notice that the love for ourselves holds the least spot. Note that nonetheless, we must have love for ourselves if we are going to gain the respect of others. In Tehillim, Psalms 119:97, oh, how I love your Torah. It is my study all day long. Matthew 19:19, respect your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. In Matthew 22, verse 37, and Yahushua said to him, you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, with all your mind. In Romans 13:10, love does no evil to a neighbor, therefore love is the completion of the Torah. In Galatians 5:22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and trustworthiness. As I come to the end of the teaching here, I will note that one of my pages has disappeared, next to the last page, which should have given the last of the commandments. But as I have tried to point out, the key to peace is wrapped up in those 10 commandments. The rest of the Torah is how to apply and how to use those teachings so that we can better our lives and hopefully the lives of those around us. With that, I want to thank each and every one of you for the prayers that you've offered up. I was writing down prayer requests as they were being taken, and I missed adding to the prayer requests my own, but I've been having trouble with a stiff-necked. Yes, I am a stiff-necked Israelite. It's been a stiff neck, and this morning it was down into my back as well. The first time in 5 years I have taken any kind of painkiller. I did take a form of Tylenol this morning to get me through this teaching. So again, I thank you and ask for your prayers of healing as well. Yah bless you all. Shalom, shalom.